Hey everybody, this is Ray Flook. Welcome back to our weekly recap of American Horror Story Cult. We're going to be taking a look this afternoon at our fifth episode, Holes. First, let me begin by saying we've been getting a really long string of really great episodes, I think, the last couple weeks. I'm cautiously optimistic. I feel like even though we're getting a lot going on, I think there's a plan there at this point. Usually I get a little worried around mid-season that Ryan Murphy's going to go off on a tangent and then kind of has to spend the last two episodes answering everything or trying to pull everything together. But I've been enjoying how the season's been going. It's been creeping me out. It's been building nicely. I'm getting little surprises here and there that I think are nice touches. So yeah, so far so good. With the episode that we're going to be talking about here, Holes, I'm going to give my 10-cent evaluation on what the title means. Clearly, obviously, on its surface, it's an allegory to Allie's fear of holes. We see at some point during the episode when she has the nightmare about the holes in her neck. But I think also holes is very important because up to this point, we've seen things going along pretty smoothly. I think with this episode, we're starting to see, again, holes in the plan. I think we're starting to see at the beginnings of sometimes why cults don't always stay together, because there are personality types that come into play. There are individual goals that come into play, and there's always the issue of power. And power is a huge, huge factor tonight. So with that, let's start going through the episode. I'm trying not to make this too long, even though a lot happened. So buckle up, let's get going. Got my handy-dandy cheat sheet here, so we're going to get started. Cool. Yeah, and I'm realizing doing this without a hat again, so I'm trying to get that practice going so it don't look like all urban lumberjack like Unabomber type thing. So yeah, anyway, we're gonna get started. Episode begins with Hope and Bob. We see that Hope is continuing her campaign of doing news broadcasts that sensationalize and build up fear to help Kai's cause. Bob is just disgusted with it because Bob's like, "What are you talking about? Crime's at the lowest. A lot of these things you're talking about aren't even substantiated. You're using, phrases like serial killer before the police have even gotten to that point." Of course, Bob is no pillar of journalism. We find out the reason why he was sitting on Serena's videos because, well, parents are going to sue. He was screwing around with her. So when Bob attempts to dump Hope, Hope is able to play that card, and I think she encapsulates up her attitude on it when she hits him with the line, "Have a nice day, Bob." It's that feeling of knowing you just basically won in that power move and you're walking out. But Bob is going to be a problem for Hope, and problems for Hope from now on get taken over pretty quickly, and we're going to see in a little bit exactly how that works out. So now we get to the group. Kai is talking about essentially about leadership and power, and one of the members, I believe RJ it is, questions, why is he running for councilman? And then Kai's being blatantly honest with him. It's the position that was open. It was the position that was made available on this election cycle. So we start there and build up. We start to get the first inklings of what we had talked about last week. The idea of Hope and Kai having a bit of a power issue. I never thought Hope was going to be taking orders from Kai for too long. And we start to see this week, and especially towards the end of the episode, that Hope's going to start making her play for a better position within the cult also, even if it ends up being at Kai's expense. Then all of a sudden we see Ivy come in. Boom, crash. Wow, okay. Even though we knew that she was involved last week, the flashback, we see that she's been all in all along. So, of course, Ryan Murphy's going to use that dun-dun-dun moment to go and hit us to credits. So we get the American Horror Story Cult credits, which, again, are awesome. Just want to say that for the record. We come back, and we get Allie, who, when we come back, she's in a mirror. She starts to have the nightmare where she sees the holes, and she starts scratching, and we realize that she's relaying her nightmare to Dr. Vincent, who, again, I don't trust. It's very important to keep that in mind. I do not trust Dr. Vincent. Go back to all the other ones. Oh, yeah, I don't want to spoil it yet. But she starts talking about the whole of her nightmares. She starts talking about how she has resentment towards Ivy over essentially grabbing everything and leaving Allie there by herself in the house where it has been marked for death and everything else, taking Oz, shutting down all the accounts and everything else. So you figure Allie's got kind of a legit reason. She also alludes to a point which I think is very interesting, where she says, it's almost as if she had this set up, like she was already ready to go with this. So we already start thinking now, Allie's thinking beyond just, okay, this stuff's in my head, this stuff's my imagination. She's starting to look around her and ask some questions too. It's going to be important for later on. We see that Allie only gets supervised visits with Oz, which is heartbreaking. We see a scene where Allie and Oz are spending some time together at the butchery on Main. And even Oz notices it. He says, Mom, you're being weird. And again, it's a tough situation for Allie. We realize that Ivy's now rolling with Winter. And Winter is just the catalyst that Ivy needs to have her anger being fed constantly into. Not just flashback. We see that this is continuing on. Now, how much righteous anger and indignation Ivy truly has, as opposed to what she's willing to put into action, that's going to be a little bit of a question mark as the episode rolls along, as you'll see with something involving a nail gun. Yeah, yep, nail gun. That's never a pretty thing. We go back now to the setup. I told you before, Bob was going to be long for this world, and he's not. Kai is getting the group together, getting the band back together, getting the clown costumes on, and is making arrangements to take care of the Bob situation for Hope once and for all. There's a great line where he says Latin is inherently scary. He says at the Hilton because Hilton's wondering why they're chanting what they're chanting, and of course Kai doing, if it's creepy and it's mysterious and people don't know it, it makes it scarier. He could be saying it in Latin like, you're gonna go to the grocery store and get me a pound of bananas. But it sounds creepy when chanted by a bunch of. In fact, anything I think would sound creepy being chanted by a bunch of clowns, especially if they're holding knives. So that pretty much could be the ABCs or Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. So they're filming the murder. Where it gets really weird is we go up and we find that Bob has some type of gimp thing strung up in his attic. With the hooks into the skin and everything else, the zipper mask, yeah, the whole deal. Think Pulp Fiction, except like Cirque du Soleil, suspended except by straps attached to the back, which again is yeah. Didn't see that coming. Typical another Ryan Murphy surprise. Ranked that right up there with the guy who was jerking off in Allie and Ivy's house from a couple episodes ago. Yeah, didn't see that coming. They're standing there trying to decide what to do with the guy while Kai decides to basically get down to the brass tacks of things and just righteously stabs the guy to the point where he just writhes and twists off. Excuse me. He just writhes and twists off the straps and falls violently down. It just horrific. And you see the cult just kind of, all of them are just looking around. Now, some don't mind it, like Hope, as you'll see in a couple minutes, while others are just, I think, starting to get to the realities of it's one thing to talk about killing, it's another one to see the killing actually happen. So they go back downstairs. Bob, at this point, has tried everything possible. He's tried bribing them. He's tried gumming at them with a knife, but nothing is going to happen. Bob dies. Each of them takes turns stabbing Bob, almost in a kind of a Murder on the Orient Express type of way, except Hope. Hope decides before she does anything that she's going to take off her mask and make sure that Bob sees exactly who she is before she just rests and acts in the top of his head. It's not easy to say, by the way. Got to string that along a little bit. I know it totally. I think I may have added some S's there that I probably shouldn't have added. So, yeah, sorry about that. So that's happened. There's some question marks about what had gone on. The group's talking. Hope isn't particularly happy with this idea that not everybody is on board within the cult as she is or some of the others are. She's all in favor of getting rid of some of the dead weight. And we get a flashback to what happened to Dr. Vincent's patients, the couple who ended up in the coffins. And we got to see who the ones who were questionable were, who the ones that weren't. We see in a couple of the scenarios, Ivy is a little squeamish when it comes to certain things. RJ is always constantly questioning and calling and not exactly making things smooth. So again, we realize Hope has kind of talked Kai into addressing this matter once and for all. Address the weak link and make sure that you can check the loyalty of those in the cult who are still there. So we get to that, but we got to reverse back a little bit because we don't want to forget about Allie. Allie, this is where the key of the episode comes into play. Allie is spying on Hilton across the street, and this is where we finally get the confirmation that Hilton and Detective Samuels have had something going on. I don't think it's a big mystery, but we get the full confirmation on it now. We also get Hilton carrying a large, heavy bag of something around. So, again, this isn't anything shocking. Allie has been known to do this. She goes across the street to investigate. She goes around to the side of the house, and she sees a big hole in the ground, about like a body burial type size. and at the bottom of the hole is Meadow telling her, "Help me." Now, Meadow may say, "Help me." Allie translates that into, "Let me get across the street, back into my house as quickly as possible, and behind my barricaded doors." Um, she gets there. Meadow shows up. Meadow's begging for help, and in that moment, she basically tells Allie, "Look, this is all a setup. You're being used. Your girlfriend's even involved. You have no idea what this is about. They're connected everywhere." And she's basically telling Allie all of these things before a bag goes over Meadow's head and she is scooped away. Yeah, big revelation, huge revelation, because Allie now is realizing, look, I may have my issues with holes and clowns and stuff like that, but a lot of stuff I've been realizing is real, or is part of something bigger. And I think that's where the tone, I think, of the series is going to shift quite a bit. There's another thing that happens later on too that I think is going to make the series very interesting from episode 6 on. So we go back. We are now back to the clown cult. I guess it's, pop a couple beers, relax and chill after, I guess would be a successful night out in a weird kind of bizarre way. Kai's 10 points ahead in the poll, but he's not particularly happy about that because he needs to be above 50% to avoid a runoff. So as great as that clown video was that Hope got on the air, it's still a little bit of a problem because they still need to push the fear issue a lot more. But to do that, they feel the need, they're going to have to clean house a little bit. And that's where we get to this. He's basically asking for loyalty from everybody in the group and asking them to show their loyalty and for them to have an opportunity to show how loyal they are to the cause. You'll notice RJ's not in the room. The reason why you'll notice that is because RJ is strapped and taped up to a chair as Kai decides to play a game of, do you trust me? Do you follow me? Let me see how many nails in a head before RJ dies game. I'm not trying to be flippant with it because it's probably one of the most horrifying scenes because of how slow and methodically it takes place. Each of them takes a turn, even Ivy, even though we see the hesitation that she has. Each of them takes a turn, essentially one after the other, putting nail in RJ's head, some gleefully doing it more than others, but we see each of them committed to it. At one point, we see Ivy even get sick from it, but she does it. And that's I think, the important part is all of them, whether they like it or not, are bonded by this violent act. And I think that's going to tie in a lot to a lot of the cult scenarios that Ryan Murphy is going to be introducing us to over the next couple of weeks, especially with Evan Peters playing, I know, a number of roles, including obviously Charles Manson. Finally, at the very end, we see Kai and RJ, while still alive, is on so many levels of just brain dead. It's heart-wrenching and disturbing. And he ends RJ suffering with the line, "Good night, sweet prince," before he ends with the final nail. And we see right then and there that, at least for now, Kai's done what he's needed to do to solidify everybody. So even if they're having any doubt or any question, right now, even if for no other reason, legally, they are all bonded together, if not bonded together by a common cause. Okay, now we get to the last part, which is important. It's a game of pinky, tell me the truth, between Hope and Kai, because Hope is not comfortable with not knowing a lot about Kai. Hope knows that Kai's been telling everybody different stories about his background. Again, I'm going to make the connection to Heath Ledger's Joker. That's one of the things I really liked about it, is it's the big mystery. Now, what we may be getting coming up could also be true, but I want to hold off on that for a second. We find out that Kai's dad was an abusive, crippled ex-motorcyclist who got crippled in a motorcycle accident and was just psychologically and physically abusive to their mom and to them. Kai witnessed his father after he'd been shot by his mother and watched his mother take his own life. So a lot of that really was a factor and came into play. One of the biggest shocking revelations, though I was right, I was right about this one. Dr. Vincent, Kai, and Winter are all related. They're brothers and sisters. They're all part of the same family. Now, Dr. Vincent is like, look, Kai, you gotta pinky swear, and this is where the pinky swears come in. You gotta pinky swear that you're gonna get rid of this and make this go away, because I'm going to medical school. I've got a practice coming up. I need to keep this family going, so I can't have anything screw this up. So Kai says to him that he'll take care of it. What Kai essentially does is he keeps the bodies in the bedroom to essentially slowly decay. At one point, he brings Winter over to show them, and as horrifying as it is, he tells her we're free now. And on some level, they are. What I find interesting is that Kai still goes to the parents, specifically to his mother, to to I guess to get advice and guidance in his own way, but also, and he makes mention of this, to prove to her that he's going to make something himself, and more importantly, to really shove it in the face of his father. Now, this conversation being said over two corpses decaying in a bed makes it even more disturbing. Um, but yeah, that's at least the most detailed backstory that we're getting on Kai. I can't help but feel like either A, that it's not completely true, or B, that Dr. Vincent and Winter are again the whole idea about how family, as messed up as they may be, will come together to rally together if one of them is threatened. So I'm wondering if Hope's not realizing, hey, I try to go after Kai, I'm going to have to deal with Winter, and I'm going to have to deal with Dr. Vincent also. So I think while Hope may feel like at this point she's in a really good position, I don't know if she necessarily is, because I don't know if she necessarily understands all the players who were in play. But again, great episode. Thank you guys for joining along with me. We are going to be back Monday evening on the 9th. This is the day after New York Comic Con for the 6th episode of American Horror Story Cult. It's called Midwestern Assassin. I know that there has been some editing done, and I know there have been some news reports that have come out that Ryan Murphy, in wake of what happened in Las Vegas, has done some retooling of the episode. So we'll be talking about that during our live blog tonight. Please make sure to join us, and I'll also be back next week to give you my recap of episode 6. Hope you guys enjoy, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for being along for the ride.